What up, YouTube? Tim Moose here. Here is my last segment where I talk about films that turns 10, 20, and 30 this week. Alright, the films celebrating their 10th anniversary, not the first one, but its sequel, and that is Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2. Which Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 was the follow-up to the 2009 animated hit, which was pretty decent. I feel that doesn't really get talked about as much. Like, out of every anime films that came out in the past number of years, I feel like Cloudy rarely gets talked about. But the sequels are pretty decent. Of course, you had a really decent voice cast that include the likes of Bill Hader returning, Anna Faris. You also had James Caan and the Sandberg, with you know with Terry Crews replacing Mr. T here. And this time around, the plot focuses on Flint Lockwood and his friends returning to Swallow Falls to save the world after the presumed destroyed Flint Mendler reactivates. This time, creating sentient food creatures. And the sequel is not as good as the first film, but I still had a fun time with the sequel. I really like the voice talents who return, and some new additions as well. I mean, not a bad flop. I mean, I'm a little surprised we never got to see a Cloudy with Chance of Meatballs Part 3 or anything, but really, still a decent film there. Alright. Also turning 10, we got the Ron Howard directed racing car film Rush. Now, Rush, is of course pretty much based on a true story about the rivalry between two Formula One drivers. You of course got the Briton James Hunt and the Austrian Nick Lauda. And of course, Nick Lauda will end up having a really serious accident where he had like 6-degree burns in his face. This is star Chris Hemsworth and Dana Brew, Dana Brew was great in this. I mean, Dana Brew is always great. Of course, he's in the MCU now. He's been some really early days of stuff. He is terrific in this. He also had Olivia Wilde in this. I mean, the movie is a really fantastic film. Chris Hemsworth gave a great performance. I'm really sure that Chris Hemsworth, I guess you say this was a movie that really showed Hemsworth is not just the God of Thunder. Like, he could do some really serious stuff. And it's shame that Chris Hemsworth doesn't do these type of films as much. But he's really terrific in this. The rivalry between him and Lauda's Dana Brule is incredible. So if you guys haven't seen it, definitely give it a go. Also turning 10, we got the romantic comedy Baggage Claim, which was directed by David E. Telber, who also recently directed that Netflix musical film Jingo Jango that came out a couple years ago. And this film had an interesting cast. You had the likes. You had Paul Patton starring, who's always great. Derek Luke, Tate Diggs, Jill Scott, Adam Brody, John Monhansoon, Jennifer Lewis, the late great Ned Betty was in this. You had one of the I believe one of the Mary sisters was also in this, if I'm not mistaken, too. I could be wrong there. Now, if you guys don't know much about the story here, you have this flight attendant named Martina Moore, played by Paul Penn, who has traveled all over the world because she's a flight attendant, obviously, and she has yet to find a man with whom she wants to settle down with. But of course, her sisters has an upcoming wedding, and pressure from her often marry a mother force her to calculate. Um, she has like a pretty much month to find a fiance of her own, and of course, she pretty much falls for this fellow flight attendant played by Derek Luke, and she also travels like pretty much across the country to meet other guys settle down with. Of course, he had John Hansu, which is always interesting to see John Hansu in a romantic comedy like this. Like, that's really interesting to see. But it's a really cute little charming film. Like Paula Patton, who does not love Paula Patton? Come on, she was great in this. Really cute, charming, really interesting performances here. So These are flow. Alright. Also turning 10 is a Joseph Gordon-Levitt directed movie, Don John. Now, Don John, was actually the directorial debut by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, which I don't think he's directed a film since, which I hope he comes back, because he did a great job with this one. And Don John had an interesting cast. You had Joseph Gordon-Levitt with Scarlett Johansson, Tony Danza, the late actress Glenn Headley. You had Julianne Moore, Brie Larson. You even had cameos by the likes of Anne Hathaway, Channing Tatum, Cuba Gooding Jr. And if you guys don't know much about the story here, you have Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who plays this New Jersey bartender named John Martello, who pretty much who's pretty much, let's say, a try to say this in a appropriate way, an adult film addict, and of course, he has never really like had a general relationship with women, but he meets this woman named Barbara, played by Johansson, and he has to like change his operating method here, and the chemistry between like Levitt and Johansson is terrific. Like hearing Scarlett Johansson have like the New Jersey accent, I thought was really cool. Of course, you had like Joseph Gordon-Levitt having a New Jersey accent. This whole movie, of course, takes place in Jersey, so there's that. But this is actually a really cute, charming film. It's not really a film about someone being addicted to online adult stuff, This actually has some heart to it. It is a really great film. I mean, if you guys have not seen it, go watch it. Very underrated too. Like, it's not really a movie that many people talk about. But hey, seeing Tony Danza popping up in this was always a given too. So, hey, he is always the boss, right? All right, now film turning 20 this week. We got National Lampoon's Dorm Days. Now, this does take place around Christmas break, which of course approaches, and this does take place at Bingsley University, who are restless with sex crazed students. Although Edgar will relinquish his birthsome virginity here, Booker has thus fulfilled in his every nerve, and so of course he ends up hiring a pretty much an adult worker here to like usher Booker into like the realm of manhood and I mean, of course, this was pretty much like another National Lampoon film, which of course been around ever since ever since Animal House, and of course we had National Lampoon's Vacation, and this had an interesting cast too. You had the likes of you actually had like Danielle Fishel, of course Topanga from Boy Meets World fame, Cameron Richardson, who's been in like Alvin and Chipmunks and Supercross fame. You also have you even had like Tatiana Ali popped up in this, Patrick Renna. You also had like Chris Owen, who you might remember as a Shermanator from America Pie. It was nice seeing him popping up in this. I mean, Dorm Days is not like it's not written as a classic as, let's say, America Pie or Porky's or maybe Animal Houses, but it's actually a pretty fun, like, raunchy teen comedy. I mean, these are the type of teen comedies you don't really get nowadays, I mean, of course, we just had Bottles, which was cool and everything, but who must see, like, the old days of, like, early 2000s, late 90s, raunchy teen comedies, like, whether you talk about America Pie, whether you talk about, what's some other ones? Maybe Road Trip's another good one. And this is actually a pretty fun one if you guys haven't seen it. So if you guys have not seen Dorm Days, it's not a great film, but it's actually a pretty fun watch. So all right, also turning 20, we got the Danny DeVito directed classic Duplex. Now, Duplex stars Ben Stiller and Drew Barrymore, who plays a couple who moves into this duplex apartment building in Brooklyn, New York, and the elderly woman played by Aline Hassel, who lives on the building's top floor, seems very sweet enough like neighbor at first, but she seems like But pretty soon, her constant demands and accidents ruin Alex and Ness's like attempt to have a perfect home here. And let's say what it is. I mean, you of course got Danny DeVito, who always has like a contract whenever he directs a movie, he has to narrate it. Like you ever notice every time Danny DeVito has directed something, he always ends up narrating the thing. Like this, of course, he was the narrator in the Matilda film, so I find that interesting there. But to be honest, this was not that great a film. I mean, I like Ben Stiller, I like Drew Barrymore. You also had some other interesting cast members popping up. You of course had the likes of Harvey Farstein, Justin Theroux, James Remar. But yeah, this movie is not all that funny. It's completely terrible. Like nothing. This is maybe one of the few. I love good comedies, but to be honest, this is one of the few comedies I was never a fan of. So yeah. Anyway, also turning 20, we got the romantic comedy film Under the Tuscan Sun. Now, this is actually directed by Audrey Wells, who also wrote the book for The Hate You Give, which of course got turned into a feature, and starred the likes of Diane Lane, and based on a memoir of the same name. And it's about like a reluctantly divorced writer who buys like a villa in Tuscany on a where I'm hoping it will like lead to a change of life. And he had some interesting cast members. You had like Sandra Oh, Kate Walsh, Lindsay Duncan, Jeffrey Tambor. It's a really decent little film here. Really good performances by Diane Lane. Sandra Oh was great in this. Really cute and charming. Definitely a really nice, girls' night out for the ladies there too. So really decent fun. Right, and also turning 20. Forgot to write this down in my thumbnail, but we of course got The Rundown. Now, this was actually one of like Dwayne Johnson's earliest films at the time. He was obviously going by The Rock. And this was directed by Peter Berg, who I believe this was actually his directorial debut, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong there. And it does, of course, team up Dwayne Johnson and, speaking of American Pie, Steve Stifler himself, Sean William Scott. You also had like Chris Walken, Rosario Dawson. And if you guys don't know much about the story here, its original title was Welcome to the Jungle, and I guess you could say that The Rundown was the first installment of Dwayne Johnson's Jungle trilogy. Yeah, it seems like Dwayne Johnson always has had a habit of doing movies set in the jungle. Whether it's like the Jumanji films, Journey 2, obviously Jungle Cruise. So yeah, I just call these films Dwayne Johnson's Jungle trilogy. But if you guys don't know much about The Rundown, it stars Dwayne Johnson. Of course, at the time was pretty much going by The Rock, who plays a bounty hunter who travels to Brazil to retrieve like his employee's son, played by Sean William Scott. And this movie is awesome. Like the chemistry between Dwayne Johnson and Sean William Scott is really fun to check out. I mean, I've always loved Sean William Scott too, going all the way back to Steve Stifler from American Pie, obviously Final Destination. He was great in Wrath of Becky. Like, if you guys have not seen Wrath of Becky, you're missing out. He was awesome in that. But that aside, this is a really fun, entertaining film. Definitely has some fun humor to it. Of course, Dwayne Johnson and Sean William Scott will go on to work together again in the not so great Southland Tales. Yeah, who remembers Southland Tales? But that is not. This is actually a really fun film if you guys never seen it. All right, now films turning 30 this week. We got the Richard Linklater classic, Dazed and Confused. Now, this movie is pretty much so popular. I mean, of course, it was a film that really made stars out of iconic actors we know today, like Matthew McConaughey, Ben Affleck, Renee Zellweger. Who else was in this one? Mila Jovovich was in this. Parker Posey. And if you guys don't know much about the story of Dazed and Confused, the plot follows the exploit of several Austin, Texas teenagers during the last days of school in 1976. And this movie like has some very iconic moments here. Obviously, Matthew McConaughey's this was pretty much, I guess, say the one that really brought Matthew McConaughey's iconic all right lines. Of course, the iconic scene with him staying out bowling alley here. This movie is great. I mean, really felt like this movie really took you back of when people were like teenagers like in the 1970s and all. Granted, I was not born in the 1970s. Um, but this movie actually makes me want to like really travel to the 70s. It really felt like a modern version of of American Graffiti. I mean, this is just really excellent. It's really funny. Like the teen angle is really great. The cast of characters are great. Of course, Richard Linklater, which I don't think this was his first film. I think his first film was Slackers. But I guess you say this is actually the movie that really put him on the map as a filmmaker. Of course, he would go on to direct other great films such as like the Before trilogies, Boyhood, uh, what some other stuff he's put out. School of Rock, obviously, which I'll talk about the following week, by the way. Of course, he has that new movie coming to Netflix called Hitman, which I've heard nothing but great things about. But Dazed and Confused is really fun. It's really funny. Like the teenage stuff is really cool. I mean, this is a really great film. If you guys haven't seen that, all right. Also turning 20. Oh boy, this is a really fun one here. It's the psychological thriller, The Good Son. Now, The Good Son, stars pretty much stars Macaulay Culkin and a lot and a very young Elijah Wood. And the film follows a young boy named Mark who, after the death of his mother, is sent with his aunt and uncle with while his father's away on business. And there he meets like his cousin Henry, played by Macaulay Culkin, who shows us signs of violent and evil behavior. And I remember watching this one, as a kid. Seeing Macaulay Culkin, by the way, because this was, of course, coming out like came out like a year after Home Alone 2 came out, and that was like his last time playing Kevin McAllister. So seeing like Macaulay Culkin go from that sweet little innocent kid from the Home Alone films, which he's okay sweet in there, but what he does shoot like the wet bandits, let's be for real, that is a little evil there. But seeing him go full on psychotic evil in this is insane. I mean, I thought Macaulay Culkin was great. That's like definitely one of the best like child performances in a psychological thriller. I mean, who does not love a good thriller about an evil child? Whether it's like Children of the Corn, Orphan, The Good Son is definitely up there. Of course, the chemistry between Elijah Wood and Macaulay Culkin's great. Who else was in this? Oh yeah, you also had like David Morse was in this. Wendy Crewson, Jacqueline Brooks. I mean, this movie is really awesome. A great cat and mouse game between the two kids here. Macaulay Culkin just goes full blown psycho in this. Is insane. I mean, I guess this was actually the movie that was really trying to show that where Macaulay Culkin was trying to show people that, hey, I'm not Kevin McAllister anymore. I can do more stuff than just than just playing a kid who's home alone all the time. So if you guys never seen The Good Son, not sure we can find nowadays, but The Good Son is awesome. I mean, this is definitely one of my favorite psychological thrillers of like the 90s. So definitely give this one a go. All right. Also turning dirty, we got the football film The Program, which stars the likes of James Caan, Halle Berry, Omar Epps, Chrissy Swanson, Joey Lauren Adams. Boy, nice week for Joey Lauren Adams, by the way. She was in both this and Dazed Confused in the same week. I mean, whatever happened to her, by the way? Like, remember she was in stuff like Chasing Amy. She's been in like Jane Silent Bob and she was like Big Daddy. It's just, she doesn't really do as much as she used to, but anyway, she's always I've always adored her every time she popped up on screen. But if you guys don't know much about The Program, this is of course a football-based film, where pretty much touches on the season of the fictional division FBS here, and of course, you have like you of course have like a Eastern State University ESU Timberwolves as they like deal with the pressure to make a bowl game, alcohol and antibiotic steroids abuse, and it follows the trials of Coach Sam Winters played by Khan. The Heisman Trophy candidate Joe Kane played by Craig Schaefer, and the freshman running back Darnell Jefferson, played by Omar Epps, and their love interest is played by Halle Berry and Buffy the Vampire Slayer herself, Chrissy Swanson. The program is a really decent football film. I mean, James Caan is no stranger at doing the football genre because he was in that movie Brian Song back in like the 70s. But yeah, this is a really decent flick. Like, it's not like the best football film of all time, nothing like that. But the performances by the likes of Omar Epps, Chrissy Swanson's great. Really decent flick if you have never seen this one. Last but not least, turning 30, we of course got Warlock the Armageddeon. Now, of course, this was a follow to 1989's horror film Warlock, which of course starred the late actor Julius Sands, who reprised his role here. This was also directed by Anthony Hickok, who also directed like Hellraiser 3. Well, and of course here we have Julian Sands, who returns as a Tyrell as Warlock, who attempts to like free Satan. And this is not nowhere near as good as the first film, but it's an okay follow up. Julian Sands, R.I.P. by the way, was always great as a Warlock. He really played this role really well, very creepy and all, and yeah, really decent flick here. I mean, if you haven't really seen this or even the Warlock, both films, I believe, yeah, both films are actually on Tubi. Give them both a go. They're really decent flicks, like, but yeah, a really decent creepy fall. I mean, far better than the Hellraiser Falls, I guess. But anyway, that's pretty much it there. Let me lead you guys. Which of these films stand out to you the most? To me, the 10-year one is actually going to be Don John. That's actually the better film on that list. The 20-year one, I'm going to go with The Rundown. And 30-year one, even though I like The Good Son, the 30-year one, I'm going to go with Dazed Confused. Drop comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. This is Himi signing.